There are a lot of natural threats that skaters have. Some common ones are pebbles, small cracks in the sidewalk, and of course, scooter kids. But most of these can be avoided and become less and less of a problem as a typical skater progresses in their life cycle. But there is one apex predator that even the seasoned veterans in skateboarding just can't seem to avoid. And it's one that brings tears to the eyes of young skaters all across the world. It's the Karen. Karens are a complicated and elusive species originating from the suburbs of North America. They start out life by being dropped on the head, repeatedly. And then they eventually evolve into a teacher's pet, where they will snitch on their fellow peers for having gum in the classroom and will always remind the teacher to pass out homework. After a few more years of this, the typical Karen will find somebody that will simp for her and will have her offspring, and that is when she'll reach her final Karen form of an AH-64 Apache helicopter parent. Where they won't let their kids have any sleepovers or any vaccines. They will continue their life by asking you to speak to the manager when they don't get something that they want, and they will call the cops on random picnics they see in public parks. But of all the things that Karens hate, nothing can match their hate for skaters. So that's why in today's video, I'll be doing my best to keep all of you skaters out there safe with the ultimate Karen identification guide, or just the 10 types of Karens that you will encounter on your life as a skater. Anyway, without taking up any more time, let's get right into this video. Starting with number 1, the typical Karen. Now, as you will learn later in this video, there is quite a variety of different Karen species, but I think it is important to begin with the one that started it all, the typical Karen. Now, a typical Karen is pretty much the base model of all the other Karens. She isn't the best looking or the one with the most features. But is simply the most common one that all the other Karens originate from. Some of the common features the base model Karen comes with is a hate of retail workers,
Baba Booey, Baba Booey, Baba Booey, Baba Booey,
a lack of common sense and empathy,
That man harassed me for not wearing a mask. I have a breathing problem.
the signature Karen cut, which is pretty much a remastered and bleached 2012 Justin Bieber haircut, an overall sense of entitlement,
I'm not chasing you, you dumb.
Baba Booey,
and of course, the iconic catchphrase, "Can I speak to the manager?" In between driving her kids to soccer practice in her disgusting minivan, the typical Karen will overreact and throw a huge tantrum when things don't go her way, and will be quick to pull out her phone, record herself freaking out, and then post it to her on Facebook to the embarrassment of anybody related to her. The typical Karen always thinks that she's right, and as for skaters, well, she despises them. She will call the cops if she sees somebody under the age of 16 not wearing a helmet, and will overall be unnecessarily rude and even vulgar to kids that are less than half her age.
Baba Booey,
Yeah, we're at a children's school.
Oh well, tell this dude to leave me alone.
Yeah.
But Karens come in all shapes and sizes, so keep in mind, this is just the base model we're working with here. We've got a lot more to cover. Up next is number 2, the teenage Karen. Now, the teenage Karen is quite an interesting breed. They typically haven't had the other things that other Karens have, like a divorce, 3 mouth-breathing kids, or any real reason to hate the world, yet they still do. Now, maybe it's because they didn't get as much attention as some of the more hotter, popular girls at their school, and now I think that getting a liberal arts degree, cutting their hair when they have a mental breakdown, and canceling people on Twitter for having a different opinion than them is a personality trait. While the typical Karen's catchphrase is, "Can I speak to the manager?" the teenage Karen's catchphrase is, "Here's the tea, sis," and "I'm not like the other girls," or even worse, "What's your zodiac sign?" "Oh, you're a Gemini? I'm sorry, you need to stay away from me, you're messing up my chakras." Typically, teenage Karens don't really hate skaters, and they actually think skateboarding is a really cool vibe. And they're probably the worst culprits for people wearing Thrasher shirts, despite only having a neglected penny board that they only rode once, and then promptly never touched again after it hit a crack in the road and got sent flying off it. But that doesn't mean that all teenage Karens are fans of skateboarding, just like this fine specimen over here.
You. It's just, can you get off my board? That's my property.
Oh, this is your property.
Yeah, that's my property.
Well, can you do me a favor and stop cracking the concrete at my college?
At your college?
Yes.
Oh, my bad. I didn't realize this is yours. All right, I'm sorry. Oh, why you got them all grab it like that? Chill, like.
That's how you hold
Baba
a
Booey,
skateboard.
Ah, chill. Hey.
Number 3, the Susan. The Susan is the Karen's long-lost twin. She has slightly longer hair and slightly less hatred for retail workers. And she calls herself the cool mom. But she's not. She also believes everything she sees on Fox News. She thinks that COVID is fake, Obama turned the frogs gay.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
And that watching Tucker Carlson is the epitome of unbiased real news. And despite all this, she doesn't hate skaters as much as the other Karens typically do. In fact, she actually had a skater boyfriend back in high school that she never fully got over, and she will probably end up cheating on her fat husband with one later down the road. But for now, she just brings her kids to a skate park and does yoga in the grass in her neon pink yoga pants for the benefit of all the other skaters. Number 4, the Sharon. The Sharon is Susan's sister. She is commonly seen with dyed hair and sometimes will have a job, usually a bad elementary school teacher with a power trip. She will constantly mentally abuse her own students and her own kids with wild freakouts, especially when they're in public, and will also lock her kids in the closet when they come back home. Despite this, she thinks that she's a great mom, and she's obviously divorced yet somehow still got partial custody. As for skaters, she thinks they're useless drug addicts and won't let her kids come within 100 feet of a skate park. Number 5, the Deborah. The Deborah is the older schizophrenic cousin of the other Karens. She has a crazed obsession with hairspray, and despite using a whole bottle of it every morning, her hair still looks like an alcoholic rat's nest. Deborah's can also be recognized as the crazy cat lady, who keeps a herd of feral cats and feeds them from a giant Home Depot bucket full of cat food. She's also absolutely terrified of anything above a medium-sized dog, and will comment on every post about pest control on Nextdoor to condemn anybody that wants rodents out of their yard. She does this in between calling the police on neighbors who let their dog pee next to her yard. But just like most other Karens, she hates seeing other people have fun, especially skaters. But luckily, she is rarely seen outside of her house, and because of this, she is rarely a threat to skaters, unless you happen to live next to her. Number 6, the essential oils Karen. What do you get when you combine an anti-vaxxer, a stay-at-home mom, and a little sprinkle of multi-level marketing? Sorry, I meant pyramid scheme. Well, that's when you get the essential oils Karen. She thinks that pestering her old high school peers on Facebook into buying Young Life and Dutora essential oils is a solid business model, and she thinks that giving her child a vaccine is the same as euthanasia. Although the essential oils Karen may have some other common Karen traits, they're typically too busy spouting about their amazing newfound knowledge about how some essential oil can cure cancer, despite not knowing anything about what an essential oil even is, or knowing that they got simply suckered into an MLM, also known as a mom lost money. Now, these Karens typically care more about having retail workers or skaters join their MLM instead of verbally abusing them or calling the cops on them, but that doesn't mean that they can't violently lash out, especially when you threaten their sacred essential oils. Number 7, the male Karen. Yes, I know some of you may be shocked out there, but male Karens do in fact exist. And male Karens are actually a lot like female Karens in many ways. They both absolutely insist on speaking to the manager, and they hate seeing other people have fun, and they love calling the cops on people for dumb reasons. But although they might hate the same things, they have different reasons for why they hate it. Where a Karen would like to see someone get fired because she received a subpar customer service, the male Karen would like to see someone get fired because they question their fragile masculinity. Despite typically being deep in their 40s, out of shape, and balding, the male Karens are the ones that are most likely to pick a fight with somebody. But just like with the regular Karens, there are also quite a few different species of male Karens out there as well. Up first, you have the MAGA hat wearing Kevin. He will freak out when asked to put a mask on when he's in the store because somehow it's unconstitutional. And he'll use the phrase both sides in reference to Nazism. He also believes that poor people just need to work harder, and he loves going on Facebook to own the libs. Then you have the soy boy Karen. Instead of calling the cops on black people for having a barbecue at a public park like a typical Karen, the soy boy Karen, even in the case of an armed robbery, would never call the police on a burglar of color. In a way, he is the Robin Hood of Karens. He will snitch on their privilege to get social points for pretending to care about minorities. He will instantly call anybody who doesn't agree with him a fascist, and most importantly, he pees sitting down. And last but not least, for male Karens, you have just the really short guy. Instead of taking advantage of his based shortness and becoming a skater or a SoundCloud rapper, or taking up some other short person favoring hobby or line of work, they instead take up the hobby of hating women for not liking their bad personality traits and then blaming it on their height. This only leads to them having a public freakout in a bagel shop and becoming a meme.
Why is it okay for women to say, oh, you're 5 feet on dating sites? You should be dead? That's okay?
Overall, male Karens will treat skaters in different ways. Some of them hate him, some of them hate him a little bit less. But if they see you outside of a skate park, watch out. You have a pretty high chance of them calling the cops and then assaulting you, ending up with them going to jail for punching a minor. So I guess in the end, they're really a bigger threat to themselves more than anybody else. And I'm pretty sure that's all we have for Karens for now. If there's any more species that we find out there, I'll make sure to update you guys because it is pretty important. You gotta keep yourself safe out there. And I hope that you learned something new today. And if you're for some reason upset with this video, well, maybe you're a Karen, I don't know, but that's not my problem. If you want, you can leave a dislike or you can leave a mean comment. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please leave it a like and also make sure to subscribe if you're new. Anyway, that's all I have for now, and I'll see you soon.